Good evening and welcome to the evening news for today, Saturday, August 6, 2022. I am Timothy Jaikran. Thank you for tuning in. In the headlines this evening, Tullow hits water-bearing well in KANUKU block. GCCI calls for action to clamp down on contract bundling in oil and gas sector. Tenders for new Albion packaging plant now open. AFC calls for removal of GUYSUCO CEO over fallout with board members, and 137 million in annual savings as new LETHEM solar power plant activated. Now for the news in detail. London-based Tullow Oil has abandoned the Potaro exploration well after hitting water during drilling in the KANUKU block offshore Guyana. Here is Gerald Bryan with our lead story tonight.
In a statement on Friday, Tullow announced that drilling operations have been completed at the Potaro well, which has been plugged and abandoned following these results. The oil company said, and I quote, "The well encountered good quality reservoir in the primary and secondary targets, but both targets were water-bearing." The Noble Regina Allen rig drilled the Potaro well to a total depth of 4,325 meters in 71 meters of water. While Spain's Repsol is the operator of the KANUKU license with a 37.5% working interest, Tullow holds 37.5% with TOQAP Holding, a joint venture between Total E&P Guyana and Qatar Petroleum, holding remaining 25%. According to Friday's statement, Tullow said it will integrate the well results into its regional subsurface models and work with its joint venture partners before deciding on next steps. Previously, Tullow had encountered oil at the Karapa 1 in the KANUKU license, but not in commercial quantities. Tullow had previously said it would limit capital exposure in Guyana and possibly sell a portion of its stake to another company, but no such announcements have been made. Last November, Tullow was confident of the exploration results from the Potaro well in the KANUKU block, which is adjacent to the oil-rich Stabroek block. Meanwhile, in addition to its interest in the KANUKU license, Tullow is also the operator of the Orinduik block offshore Guyana, where it has made two other discoveries at the Jethro 1 and Joe 1 wells. However, those findings showed heavy crudes with high sulfur content, a less economically viable quality of oil. As the operator of the Orinduik block, Tullow holds 60% working interest, while Echo Atlantic holds 15%, and TOQAP holds the remaining 25% working interest. In March 2021, the government of Guyana granted Tullow Oil and its partners an extension of its prospecting license in the Orinduik block until 2023.
The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry has recently complained about recurrent contract bundling practices within Guyana's petroleum sector. GCCI President Timothy Tucker has reiterated calls for authorities to clamp down on this practice, saying that it should not be tolerated. Vanu Manikchan has the details.
Contract bundling is the consolidation of the procurement of goods and services under one contract. According to the GCCI president, even with the local content legislation in place to ensure Guyanese benefit from opportunities in the oil and gas sector, some companies are using loopholes to bypass the law, something which he contended should not be tolerated.
The damage that rent seeking, that bundling of contracts, rent seeking, and all of these things can do to the local economy, how it will damage it, how you, the citizens of this country, will not benefit. And it's important that that message is clearly given. You have some contracts, let's say there's one contract in particular that is over 20-something million US over 5 years. When one company gets that, whereas 10 companies can get 2 million US, that's important. That's what is going to reach to the communities. That is what's going to reach across the country. And we as citizens cannot and should never stand by and allow that, not at the detriment of all of us.
Tucker pointed out the importance of steps taken to clamp down on such practices.
If you do not unbundle, then you will have one supplier taking a large portion of the areas that are allocated for Guyanese businesses. The intent of the legislation was to carve out an area of opportunity for Guyanese businesses. Things that Guyanese companies can do already and that we have the capacity in country to do basic services. That's why you see the GCCI calling on the Ministry of Natural Resources through its local content secretariat to look at the sectors, look at how the procurement is done, and to unbundle that so that you can have more businesses benefiting from the local content legislation and what is being done in country. We have to realize that the legislation is there to develop Guyana and Guyanese. We as Guyanese cannot and should never allow ourselves to be used for the benefit of others.
Only last month, President Dr. Irfan Ali said his government will continuously review the local content legislation in order to address the loopholes after it was disclosed that foreign companies are using their junior Guyanese staff to fill up the legally mandated quota for senior management in order to qualify as a Guyanese company without compensating the junior staff. The head of state had noted that there are ways in which agencies can go after those who try to abuse the system or use loopholes just to satisfy the criteria. Reporting for the Evening News, Fanu Manakchand.
Tenders have been opened for a new packaging plant at Albion Sugar Estate, Region 6, East Berbice, Quarantine, as the sugar company moves towards producing value-added products. Amar Prasad reports.
Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Sugar Corporation, Narain Singh, told media operatives on Friday that tenders are open for the Albion packaging plant. The new packaging plant at Albion, which will cost approximately $1.9 billion and is a multi-year project, will cater to the production of more packaged sugar, which is currently in demand locally.
Albion, we've just opened the tender for the packaging plant. The first time since Enmore that we're building a brand new packaging plant at Albion. And we're moving everything, the sales of the value chain, to get better value. 2
years ago, Guyana was getting US $300 per metric ton. Presently, the cost per metric ton of packaged sugar is US $900. The CEO underscored that in raising the value, the company is in a better position to pay its bills independently.
This is important because GUYSUCO has to pay its bills. We can't be always going and ask for support. We have to figure out a way of paying our bills. And that is what is important. So we have a 5-year strategic plan to move us from a point where we are now to a point where we can start paying more of the bills.
Last month, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa disclosed that some $400 million had been earmarked for the relocation of the packaging plant to Albion in Region 6. The GUYSUCO packaging plant is being relocated from Enmore, East Coast Demerara, whereas the facility there will be transformed into a modern oilfield service center and manufacturing facility. For the Evening News, Amar Prasad.
We are now joined by Lawanda McAllister, who reports that clean energy is now a reality for residents of LETHEM, Region 9, Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo, with the commissioning of a 472 million 1 megawatt solar farm. Details in this report.
Apart from reliable electricity, the plant is expected to generate $136 million per year in savings as it relates to fuel cuts. It also feeds into the government's agenda of carving a sustainable renewable energy pathway for Guyana. Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Energy Agency, Dr. Mahinder Sharma, highlighted that this is the first mega-scale solar farm as the country embraces a low-carbon future.
It has been working since July 26th. We've been testing and making sure that it is doing what it is supposed to do. And I'm told from the software that is there that you will see, we've already saved 10,000 liters of diesel by simply turning this on from July 26th to now. That's about 63 barrels, 63 drums of fuel. From July 26th to now, 63 drums of fuel were avoided. We didn't have to use them to give you electricity because those pieces of glass that are sitting out there are capturing the sun's energy and converting it to electricity and sending it to your homes.
The payback period for this project is about 3.5 years. In Latham, residents pay $80 per kilowatt of electricity, higher than the rate paid in Georgetown. Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat Indar, pointed out that this was due to the transportation of fuel from the coastland.
Here you have a township that is being beaten down because of COVID-19 and lack of economic activity. And then you have a part of the myriad of cost of living issues and how to get by as a family and as a business. You have your electricity bill to pay too. And it was hard. We are coming out of that.
At peak demand, Latham would require about 1.1 megawatt of electricity. The town can run on renewable energy for about 5 hours per day, lowering operating costs. Lawanda McAllister for the Evening News.
Ministry of Education to ensure all parents receive Because We Care cash grant. AFC calls for removal of GUYSUCO CEO over fallout with board members. This and more after this short break.
Optic offers great patient care that is tailored for my entire family.
At Optic, a wide selection of affordable optical frames and optical services are available to fit your budget.
At Optic, my family is provided with comprehensive eye examination and access to the ophthalmology services, all under one roof.
Optic takes pride in delivering exceptional customer service and a unique experience to you, our customers.
Optic Vision Care is a company that is Guyanese born and grown that will help you take care of your precious eyes.
At Mima Decor, we cater for all of your favorite design products. Tiles for your floors and walls, doors, door locks and knobs, bathroom cabinets, bathtubs and bathroom fixtures, kitchen sinks and fixtures, chandeliers, wall lamps and light fixtures, wallpaper and wall panels, plus so much more. Let's make your creation a reality. Mima Decor, 8 Sheriff Street. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. As the Ministry of Education wraps up the distribution of the Because We Care cash grant and uniform vouchers, officials are taking steps to ensure that all parents receive the grant. Amar Prasad has the details.
This is according to the Minister of Education, Priyamani Chan, who stated that the ministry will seek to address the issue of late registration and those parents who did not receive due to other reasons.
We've had parents coming to say they registered late. And parents coming to say, particularly from private schools or mostly from private schools, that their names were not on the register for one reason or the other. So we're going to have to look at what we have remaining and whether we can serve all of those persons still in a second go round. So there are going to be 2 second tranches. One, the first one being people who are legitimately on the list but could not get here for whatever reason. They're at work, they're in the hospital, whatever. And then we'll announce those dates shortly. And then the second one would be a look to see whether the people who were not registered on time didn't do what we asked them to do, if we have enough in our budget to serve them. I want people to remember that the budget was arrived at based on a register. And so if you weren't on the register, we wouldn't have catered for you, but we may still be able to do something, so we'll have a look at that.
The minister highlighted that the rollout of the grant was very smooth and noted that this is the first time the government has rolled out a cash grant of this magnitude.
The Ministry of Education rolled out a really good program, of course with assistance from the Guyana Police Force and the Auditor General's Office. And so we've had not only a program that was smooth and efficient, but one that's really accountable and very, very transparent. I'm very glad about that. I want you all to pause for 1 second and think about the fact that we just served 190-something thousand children in 4 days. distributing probably more than $5 billion. Of course, the numbers are now coming in. That has never been done in this country before. And so I'd like you to just pause a minute and understand the magnitude of that undertaking and think about how smooth that was. While your school was collecting, the rest of the nation was also collecting.
Minister Manichan assured that the government will continue the distribution of the cash grants next year and keep its promise of increasing it each year.
And to all the parents, please know that this is going to be a continuous grant. We said that from the moment we started in 2014, that it was going to raise incrementally until it became at least $50,000, and we have stayed true to that promise. So next year and the years following this will continue and even increase. Please spend this wisely. This is supposed to be a help for you to get your children prepared for school, and it gave us great pleasure being your servants because we care.
The government of Guyana initially aimed to distribute a total of 193,679 Because We Care cash grants and school uniform allowances this year. This was estimated to be at a cost of over $5.8 billion. Each child in the public and private school system would receive $30,000, $25,000 as a grant, and $5,000 as an allowance for school uniform. For the evening news, Amar Prasad.
The Alliance for Change, the minority party in the opposition APNU-AFC coalition, has called for the removal of Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Sugar Corporation, Sesnarine Singh, over his recent fallout with certain board members. Bisham Mohammed reports.
Earlier this week, GUYSUCO's Vice Chairman Anthony Vera resigned from the Board of Directors, saying that he was not happy with the directions in which this sugar corporation was going. His resignation followed a heated confrontation with CEO Sesnarine Singh at a recent meeting over their disagreements on the purchase of tractors for GUYSUCO. As a result of that showdown, AFC's leader Kemrad Ramjatan at a press conference on Friday reiterated calls for the removal of GUYSUCO's CEO. He contended that the fallout was inevitable.
The misbehavior of the CEO at this board meeting should see him sanctioned. To call commissioners the descriptions he called them there, and to call the chairman of the board as he called them there, is sufficient to see him being compelled to send in his resignation as CEO. Sugar with Sesnarine would certainly have no future. The AFC had indicated that the CEO is an unsuitable candidate for the governance and the administration of GUYSUCO.
In fact, Ramjatan noted that Singh, a former AFC executive member, does not know anything about sugar. Nevertheless, the AFC leader called on the government to intervene and halt the purchase of the articulated type of tractors.
Well, I hope that the government intervene and do not waste our taxpayers' dollars, because the government now knows, as a result of that leak of the big explosive meeting, what is the thinking of its members of the board, as against what is the thinking of the CEO. And so the government at least should put a halt on the purchases of any more of the tractors. That is, if the purchases have not been made already by the CEO. But if it was not being made and only the 2 of the game tractors were bought, well, then certainly the government should ensure that no further, and that there should be a more comprehensive measure of whether the John Deere is better than the articulated tractors.
Meanwhile, the Guyana Agriculture and General Workers Union on Friday also called on GUYSUCO to ensure the judicious use of the resources while employing appropriate and tested technologies to improve production and productivity. Bisham Mohammed, Evening News.
Following a recent collaboration between the Guyana Police Force and the Environmental Protection Agency to tackle noise nuisance, the organizations are also now concerned about prank calls relating to the issue. Here is Shane Marks with the details.
According to EPA officials, they are receiving a number of prank calls about noise nuisance and they are working to have such issues brought under control. The head of the complaints unit, Suraj Paul Singh, during a press conference on Friday, said this is done by malicious persons and after receiving prank calls, the agency would usually conduct a thorough screening.
It is recorded, right? We put it in our database, right? And then we try to gather additional information, right? So we may reach out to the complainant, find out exactly what is going on. We do our spot checks. We even sometimes rely on the NDCs who are actually within the area. So they can do what is called like an initial inspection for us, provide us with the information, and then we also act.
He added that there are also instances where the agencies would show up to the area after receiving the calls, but nothing would be happening.
Persons out there, some of them might be, you know, I don't know how to put it, but they can be somewhat mischievous, right? So we are urging persons, if you are seriously affected by noise nuisance, right, reach out to both agencies. You can reach out to the Guyana Police Force, you can reach out to the EPA, and we will have your matter addressed.
In May, the Guyana Police Force signed a memorandum of agreement with the EPA to tackle noise nuisance. The agreement was signed to pave the way for greater collaboration between the EPA and the police in the areas of training and enforcement of noise management. As such, Singh said that they are currently undergoing several enforcement activities with the police force to bring such issues under control. EPA and the GPF have conducted several activities over the years to curb noise nuisances, and under the new management of both entities are taking concrete steps to tackle this issue. These include increased training of officers, the handover of noise meters for investigation, and the signing of the MOU that will guide the overall collaborative effort. Shane Marks, The Evening News.
Grinding sugar estates in Berbice are producing less sugar even as cane production has increased. This is due to more cane being required to produce 1 ton of sugar, an issue that was addressed by Region 6 Chairman David Armogan at the level of the Regional Democratic Council. Our Berbice correspondent Andrew Carmichael filed this report.
With one of the 3 sugar estates grinding currently, it takes 15.9 tons of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. The company had projected that it would take 12.5 tons of cane to produce 1 ton of sugar. Already for this crop, 675 tons of sugar have been produced. This is in the wake of a sugar shortage which saw consumers paying as much as $400 per pound of sugar. Today, supermarkets were retailing the commodity at $150 per pound, but they were only limiting customers to 5 pounds. Meanwhile, the Sugar Corporation had projected to produce at 47.4 tons per hectare and is currently producing at 47.7 tons.
The TCTS is a little bit more than what they projected, it's 15.9. So you're going to get less sugar from the canes that you're grinding if you continue to have a TCTS of 15 and you're projecting 12. So even if you have the amount of cane that they have projected, you're going to get less sugar based on the high TCTS.
Following the closure of the Rose Hall and Skeldon estates by the APNU AFC administration, cane fields were also left abandoned. After the administration was ousted from office, the PPPC government was bent on reopening them. Armogan told the RDC that the corporation does not have all the machinery needed to cultivate the land.
GUYSUCO is also looking for tractors to hire for tillage purposes, so if you have tractors and you want to hire to GUYSUCO, you can apply.
Meanwhile, Armogan explained that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to be a challenge affecting cane harvesting, while the poor state of dams is also presenting challenges for the production of sugar.
The dams are in a real terrible state. Poor state of structures along cane transport routes. Labor turnout not to expectation, affecting both harvesting and crop husbandry. And so they're looking for contractors too, to provide labor. So if you want to, if you got 20, 30 persons that want to work, you can be a contractor, get them with you and get a contract to work for GUYSUCO.
For the evening news, Andrew Carmichael.
Here is Andrew Carmichael once again, this time to report that a privately owned taxi was in the wee hours of Saturday set on fire as the owner was forced to watch helplessly. In this report, you will hear that it was the same taxi that had transported Dave Singh, who has been charged with murder of Burbi's businessman Vikram Subaran. Let's have a look.
The incident occurred at about 12:30 hours as the car was parked in the driveway of the taxi owner's home at number 2 Village East, Kanji. According to Chandrapal Mohabir, he was awoken by a strange sound.
But 12:30 last night, I hear a song go, bam, hard, right? So I run from my room and I come straight to the veranda. I see my car catch a fire. When I come out when I did downstairs, I hear somebody walking on the step. So why is thinking I call me for them for come, when I come the car already done burn. I can't do nothing about it. You don't catch fire too far.
How long you have this car?
Only about 8 months now.
According to Mohabir, he was able to view CCTV footage of the incident and explained what he saw.
Well, I see a video by the neighbor down there and he show a guy come with a jar and a steel rod. And while he walk coming, he stop behind the post, he wait till the vehicle and pass and he light something on the ground. When he don't light it, he takes the rod and bust the back windscreen. When he bust the windscreen, I see he pick up the jar and start shine the gasoline in the car. When he don't shine now, he take the same thing we light on the ground and shine in the car and the car catch fire.
There are reports that it is the same taxi that transported Dave Singh, who was charged for killing East Kanji businessman Vikram Subaran between August 31st and July 1st.
Not on the mortar day. I never drop it on the. I drop it a couple days before, like 2 months before. I drop it down there.
The police are said to be investigating the incident. For the evening news, Andrew Carmichael.
And now for a look at the bridge reports.
Sidamar Harbour Bridge will be closed to vehicular traffic on Sunday, August 7, 2022 at 23 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge is expected to be closed at 11 hours 30 on Sunday, August 7, 2022, also for a period of 1.5 hours.
ExxonMobil on the 14th football tournament kicks off, and Luziknan Golf Club looking to make golf more diverse. Details of these stories and more in the Sportscast sponsored by Macorp, coming up on the other side of the break.
Superbet com certeza a sua melhor escolha. Com mais de 200 jogos online com Superbet, você aposta é para ganhar. Cadastre-se hoje, tá esperando o quê? Basta acessar o www.superbet.gy. Clicar em registrar e você já está apto a participar. Lembrando que o Superbet não é recomendado para menores de 18 anos.